Welcome to the Find Your Leadership Confidence podcast with Vicki Noethling. You are about to discover impactful lessons that help you grow as an individual, grow your confidence, and find the positive and good within you, so you powerfully and authentically become the best version of yourself. Be sure you visit our website at www.findyourleadershipconfidence.com. While you're there, subscribe to us via your favorite network. Now tune in, get ready, and enjoy the journey of emerging as a leader of exception in the 21st century.
Welcome, everyone, to the Find Your Leadership Confidence podcast. I'm your host, Vicki Noethling, coming to you from Roswell, Georgia. The goal of this podcast is to bring topics and guests that will empower you to become that confident leader and take your business and your life to the next level. Today, I am very excited to have with me Darius Lahoutifard. And let me explain to you why. So Darius Lahoutifard is the driving force behind MEDDIC Academy, and he stands as the best-selling author, serial entrepreneur, and former executive at industry titans such as PTC and Oracle, among others. His last venture, Business Hangouts, is a Google G Suite live broadcasting app, and it was acquired within just 3 years, boasting millions of users. Despite his corporate success, Darius's true passion lay in tech startups, and at PTC, he led his unit from $4 million to $27 million in 3 years, with a team of 150 people, all within the fiercely competitive French market, dominated by Dassault Systems. PTC outperformed its rival in its home territory. It was during this time that Darius, together with other sales leaders at PTC, built the foundation of what is now known as MEDDIC and MEDDPICC. I don't know how to pronounce that, sales methodologies. So we're going to talk about one of his books that the title and the concept is very, very intriguing to me. And it is Always Be Qualifying. Always Be Qualifying. Please join me in welcoming Darius Lahoutifard. Darius, so happy to have you on today.
Thank you very much, Vicki, for having me. Thank you for this great introduction. I was looking behind to see who you're talking about.
It is all you. So we're going to get to know a little bit more about you. First of all, first 2 easy questions before we get into the meat of things. And the first is, where do you call home? Where do you live right now?
I live in Southern California, city of Newport Beach, if you're familiar with
yes, I am.
Southern California. Yes, I moved to California from France 15 years ago, and it has been home since then. I'm an outdoor person. I'm a motorcycle biker and hiker, so it's a perfect place for me.
Yeah, well, I don't know, motorcycle biking in California traffic, maybe not so much, but you can go a little ways out of the city to get some great biking areas for sure.
Yeah,
yes,
by the beach and mountains, yes.
Yes. So I gave all of these accolades of you and, you know, some of the great things that you did, but I always like to have you share a little bit about the backstory, about that journey that really led you to where you ultimately are today. I think that it's important for the audience to see that it's not an overnight success. And there were things that really drove you and were pivotal moments that made you be who you are today. So if you could just share a little bit about your story, please.
Absolutely. So I was, as a student in high school and then in college, I was good in math. I was a math guy, really ranked top guy at high school, and then engineering school in France, École Centrale de Paris, which is the top engineering school. And naturally, when I graduated as a robotics engineer, I went into solving robotics problems at a large multinational called Schlumberger, which is a Franco-American company, $6 billion company, not very well known uh, because they are in oil services mainly. And I spent 3 years, 4 years, 3, 4 years as an engineer solving complex robotics problems. And I had a passion for maybe the art of persuasion, maybe sales, certainly money. I'm very deep
Yes.
on these subjects. So I had the impression that I was solving these problems and the sales guy was making the commissions, was bringing the commission.
Yes.
So I went to my manager and said, hey, this is not fair. I'm doing the job and they are getting the money. I want to move to sales. And he laughed and everyone knowing that, or are you joking? You are a star.
Engineer.
Yeah, and you're doing well. Why would you break this career that you're shining and everyone applauds you going to sales? First of all, sales is not, um, you deserve better. That was their opinion. And they were saying that you will not succeed. I mean, I'm an Iranian born who moved to France alone at the age of 17 with given the situation in Iran back in 79. So I had an accent in French. I have less an accent in French. Now I have a good accent in English. So so that was also on top of it. They were more or less saying you're not going to be a good salesperson. So that was the motivation. That made me want to prove them wrong
Yeah.
and created a desire of becoming a great salesperson. So they said no, and I said, okay, well, if that's the case, I will do that elsewhere because I want to do it. And in order to facilitate the
Yeah.
transition, I offered to spend part time doing my job as a sales and then as an engineer, and then asked for a few accounts. Long story short, I became very successful in sales, 180% first year, 189% the second year, became the CEO of that subsidiary at age 28, and
Wow.
then realized that the startups are more attractive than the politics, which is developed in large corporations, which is not fun. It's not me.
Yeah.
So I got attracted to startups and then ultimately created my own startups several times. For this is the fifth one. MEDDIC Academy is my fifth company. The four previous companies, two of them failed, and two of them were sold. So it has been a journey that I loved it. And the transition to sales is that this robotics engineer background is process-oriented mind, is a process-oriented mind. And I noticed that B2B sales, high-end sales, and high-end business are not emotional. They are rational, and there is a process. And MEDDIC and MEDDPIC is all about understanding what makes people sign contracts, B2B contracts, large contracts, and what is common in every single large contract. So putting these together and presenting this as a methodology and educating them so that they have a better life.
Sounds awesome. So let's just break it down a little bit. What does the acronym MEDDIC stand for?
MEDDIC and its variant that
MEDDPIC.
I have contributed further. MEDDPIC, the M stands for metrics. Metrics means that people are more sensitive when you quantify things than just quality. If you'd say to someone, my product is better than the competitors, is one thing. And then when you say someone that my product made that customer reduce cost by 50% by doing so. And as a result of that, the ROI of their investment or the payback period of their investment was within 2 days instead of several years. That the impact is
That's huge. Yeah,
and,
absolutely.
and by the way, and that we'll talk about this a little bit later, very shortly. This is not new. Aristotle, in the art of persuasion, the rhetoric, mentions these things as why we can persuade people with logic and credibility versus just trust me, it's gonna be
Yeah.
good.
How
So
about the E?
E is the economic buyer. We always need to meet with the economic buyer. We need to identify who is really the person who has the last words on the
Yeah.
purchase decision. Um, the D is decision process and decision criteria. Decision criteria are important even in B2C, even as consumers. When you go and buy something, what are the criteria that we have? Do we want something solid? Do we want something cheap? Do we want something um, in such a color? So we have criteria. It's essential for a salesperson and a business person to understand their uh, parties' criteria because then they can qualify them out. The whole point of these, and I will continue with the other acronym, is that we assess the opportunity, we assess this sales opportunity or business opportunity. It's the same thing in contracts.
Right, right.
And decide as soon as possible that or predict that this is going to be signed by us, it's a deal for us or not. And if
Yeah.
it is not, walking away, not wasting time. Let me continue with the acronym and then come back to this aspect. So the I stands for identify pain. What is the reason someone
Right.
is looking for a product? What problem they want to solve?
Right.
C stands for champion. There is always someone in these contracts in the customer's company, an employee of the customer who helps us selling, who is advocated advocating our solution in the company, who's selling on our behalf. And if we don't have such a person, we won't
Yeah.
sell. So
Yeah.
we need to identify potential champions and then develop them and leverage with them the solution so that they can spread the word inside that account. And in the variant with MEDDIC, the P stands for paper process because the decision process is one thing. And then, the legal aspect. Nowadays, there's the IT review, security aspects, there are regulation aspects, compliance aspects. So we need to cover all these early enough so that we don't waste time at the end of the negotiations. And finally, another C in MEDDIC stands for competition. We don't play or we don't argument or present things depending on who we are competing against. Sometimes we're competing against status quo. Sometimes we're competing against a given competitor. So we should be talking differently depending on who we are competing, not necessarily mentioning the competitor, but developing the right arguments with the right person.
So very interesting. Everything you just described. As a project lead, I I went through that process all the time. I always thought that project management was involved sales anyway, because you had to sell the project to the stakeholders, you had to sell the project to the audience, the users and whatnot. And so everything you just went through is what I went through always. And I love that you had the pick piece because I found that my projects went far more smoothly whenever I understood processes.
Absolutely, absolutely. And there is this famous saying in the US, nothing happens until you sell something to someone. And sales is not just about sales, is in every day we are sharing ideas, and it's better if we can convince people why we are doing this or why we are thinking that way. So sales is everywhere. And now back very quickly to that qualification aspect. It's something very
Mm-hmm.
interesting, is that many salespeople, you know, in the organizations, there are leads, so they are receiving contact information from marketing, or people go and send inquiries. So these leads, many salespeople think that the more leads they convert into hot projects, the higher they have a chance to succeed, which
Mm-hmm.
is absolutely wrong,
Yeah.
because their success depends on the rate of the projects they are involved with heavily that they convert. So if all of them convert, they are great. So one way to do that is to avoid a lead to get into those that are with which they are involved and they are spending time on. If they eliminate those that have no chance to succeed very early and don't waste time on them, then their success rate increases. And the common sense is that if the time, our time is limited, 8 hours a day, let's say in average people work. If our time is spent on deals that will close, we're big winners. And we are losers when we spend time on deals that have low chance to close and
Mm.
won't close.
So always be qualifying is popular concept in sales. So how do you define it and why is it crucial to those long-term sales? If you could expand a little bit more on that, always being qualifying.
Yeah, that's what we just said about qualification. So it's the fact that qualification is more important, and this is in opposition to always be closing,
Yeah.
getting very
Yes, I
great
was just gonna.
close. Yeah, and that model is, I don't know if it still applies in some businesses, maybe, but certainly not in the high-end B2B sales with sophisticated people, and certainly not that approach. So it's a hint to always be closing. So instead of always be closing, blindly pushing customers to just close without knowing what you're doing, well, always be qualifying, always be asking questions. I recommend salespeople to ask constantly questions to understand and guide the client through questions rather than stating things. Stating things is about us.
That's
Asking
right.
questions is about them.
Mhm.
It's indisputable concept that if you want a conversation to go well, ask questions and say the minimum of things. And those minimum that you say is the metrics, is customer testimonial, something which gives you credibility. Why would you want to use our solution, whatever product or service I'm offering, doesn't matter, because like that other customer, you may have these gains, that those are tangible, quantifiable gains, hence the metrics part of it.
Yeah. And
And
I think it's important what you were just saying, though, that piece of understanding that while you're questioning, you need to sit back and not talk so you can actively listen and truly listen to understand what they're saying so that you have more of a basis or a foundation to be able to qualify them.
absolutely, absolutely. I can give one example of one of the things that I teach in my sessions that still today, even if I have mentioned it several times in videos and podcasts and everywhere, still today I have workshops, and 95% of my audience has not had obtained or practiced that habit. And what is, in sales, the first step is called discovery, understanding the customer's needs, understanding
Mm-hmm.
the pain.
Yeah,
Why
right.
are we talking to start with? And usually what is well understood is that to come out of that discovery meeting with a list of issues that the client wants to resolve. What I ask them is two extra things. First, what's the consequence of leaving the pain unremedied?
Yeah.
What happens? What if we just don't fix it? Is that going to cost you $1 million a year? Is that just some happy users? What is it? So that's number one. So transforming the pain into impact, into
Mm-hmm.
dollars, cost.
Mm-hmm.
And that cost could be a risk of intrusion in cybersecurity. It could be any number. And the second is who in the organization is suffering the most from this? Who can't sleep at night because of this issue?
Mm-hmm.
Very often salespeople stick with the people who are inquiring, asking things, and they are not the decision makers. They actually don't care that much about the
Yeah.
problem. Someone has told them to look into this problem. So we need to figure that. So these are examples of techniques and tips and tricks that are both some of them in the book and many of them, of course, in the workshop discovered.
So I think it's really interesting that you talk about the pain piece and who's really suffering. I know I was in a high performing team, and we had to meet with our top customers of the company that I worked with, and we had our agenda. But the first hour of our meeting with them, we had them talk to us about what they're doing, what technology they're putting in place, what things that they are concerned about in terms of their business and technology. And at any point when they said they had an issue or a problem that was within our realm to help them, our agenda changed. And we went into the mode of solving for that problem, whether it took that meeting or several more. Until we solved those problems, we didn't continue with our agenda. And the result most often was we gained more trust, more business, and a better relationship with them.
Absolutely. That's the key, because we sell when we become the trusted advisor. And how do
Yeah.
we become the trusted advisor? How do we build trust? By proving that we can help them solve their problems and proving that we know that problem.
So, what are some mistakes that salespeople are making whenever they're qualifying leads, and how do you teach them to avoid those pitfalls?
Yeah, we mentioned some of them. Another big one is the champion. The thinking that this person who is a pleasant person who returns calls and and we get along with that person, so we can trust them in their ability to run the project internally and lead it to the signature of the contract. Um, that's not always the case, and it's very common to make that mistake because salespeople are very optimistic people, and I call that, they wear rosy glasses, and MEDDIC helps them to remove those rosy glasses, then they see the reality. So, for instance, with the champion, we provide tests which allow to assess the person, the real motivation, why they care, do they care, and if they do, why they care, and what have they done so far, which can make us feel comfortable that they are doing similar thing. If we ask others in the account about how much does this person like us and want us to be implemented in their company, what others say. So a lot of things in that human relationship, and also the one-on-one. One of the things that I help people understand. Great salespeople do that naturally, but they are not even always able to explain how they do it. But my goal is when there is a workshop with 10% of seniors and 90% of juniors, giving tips and tricks, techniques to the juniors so that they can succeed. And some of them it don't know that we need to have a personal connection with that champion.
Yeah.
We need to have a one-on-one with them, and moments or conversations where we talk about everything but not business. We talk about everything but not the deal or the project, or because that's where the connection is built.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. So you talked a little bit about your Leadership Academy and your book, and so I first wanted to ask, typically when someone signs up for your Leadership Academy, what what are some first things that you would do to help them? I mean, do you have an assessment of where they are, or is everyone given the same instructions? How does that work?
That's great. Let me just clarify that in the academy we have two type of audience. They are very close, obviously,
Mm-hmm.
but there are the individual contributors and there are managers and leaders.
Okay.
So we have different curriculums for them. They go together because we help managers lead and coach and help their teams within the framework by using the same language and within the framework. So there are these two uh, aspects, and then the newer courses that I have added is pure leadership, pure sales leadership, pure leadership, regardless of the framework.
Mm.
And that I added. MEDDIC Academy has now more than 7 years of existence.
Mm-hmm.
And I added because I noticed that one of the reasons the teams are not performing is the leader.
Yeah. Yeah.
Obviously it's sensitive subject. Uh, um, but the leaders, I see them in action. I'm very well placed to notice this. For
Mm.
instance, even by the way they act in the group
Yeah.
with their team, because I observe them and notice things. So these new courses in leadership are to help leaders build teams. So there's just a cycle of recruiting and building
Mm-hmm.
the constitution of a team, which is sometimes possible for leaders, especially when they are in fast growth, and sometimes it's not. But still, we need to go through that in order to bring in the talents that are the best match with our goals and our culture. The second phase is developing the team, either the existing team or the people that we just hired.
Right.
That development has a very direct approach in helping, giving them tools, providing
Right.
training, providing guidance, but at the same time making them responsible, being
Mm.
very clear about those goals, both goals in terms of activities and goals in terms of results. If we just give results goals and they don't achieve it, and we don't have any way to measure
Accountability.
the activity, we cannot help them
Yeah.
why they are not succeeding. And then, being able to make decisions if they are not successful, and that those are very tough decisions.
Mm.
At what time, at what stage we should make those decisions, and once we make those decisions, how we do it, and of course on the positive side, rewarding, recognizing success, even a little success, how to
Mm.
do it, collectively, how to promote them, could be just verbally, but showing gratitude and recognition to people who perform and increasing that. And that's,
Yeah.
by the way, related to the
Your
new book,
book.
Leadership, it's amazing, Vicky, that these things existed 2,500 years ago, 2,500 years ago. You can't imagine. One of the things in this book, sorry, I'm talking about it a little bit.
So excited, right?
You didn't ask questions about it, but I'm talking
No,
about
no, that's fine. Perfectly segue.
is that, for instance, we have President's Club on in tech companies. The achievers are invited in a good resort once a year, and with the CEO and receiving awards and uh, sales meetings and sales kickoffs, or company kickoffs once a year in a good location to start the year with motivation. These exact events and things were practiced by Cyrus the Great 2,500 years. It's amazing.
Well, good leaders exist over time. And I think, I do what I do about leadership because I had one style of leadership when I started in the 70s and 80s, and it didn't resonate very well with me. And so whenever I tried to do my way, the people are like, well, no, you don't have the skills to be a leader. And it wasn't until I found some people that let me lead the way I knew was right that I suddenly had teams that were performing really well, and people wondered what I was doing. And
Amazing.
I love the fact that you can go all the way back 2,500 years to see the foundation for how to really be a leader. And I do agree that there are a lot of businesses out there that do not spend near enough or any time on developing their leaders. They just say, well, he was good at this sales, or he was good at this Excel format, or he was good at project management, but how do you build relationships? How do you know how to reward and recognize all those things that are necessary to truly be able to be impactful?
Absolutely. Even when leaders have, there are leaders who have the reputation of leadership. They have been at different companies, but when you do the right analysis, is that the reason for their apparent success is not results, it's not achievements. There's something else. So then the same thing happens in this company. So it's very sensitive subject, but absolutely crucial. So one of the key things before creating these courses, Vicky, I watched a lot of videos and courses at Harvard, at big traditional institutions, and I noticed that they are just general,
Theory.
feel good blurbs. They were nothing actionable, nothing really concrete, no techniques, which is actually, by the way, the same thing in sales. My course is really only 2 hours, but it's really giving tips and tricks. For instance, on the resumes, it has nothing to do with what HR type of recruiting advises. It's not contradicting them, but it has nothing to do with that. And there are a few things which are key for finding the right talents, in at least in sales and business people, that you need to know and apply so that you build an elite team.
So what are some of the chapters that you have in your new book that would help the reader propel and understand how to be stronger as a leader and
Okay,
as
the new book.
sales?
Let's talk about the new book. The new book
Yeah.
an edition. The subtitle is Unlocking Xenophon's Cyropedia. Xenophon was a Greek philosopher and army general and author who wrote the first, Peter Drucker calls it the first book on leadership, which is Cyropedia, which in Greek means the education of Cyrus. And it has two meanings: how he was educated, how he got educated, and what can we take away as education from Cyrus. So there's both aspects in the word. He has probably played with the word as well. So it's an addition. You may wonder how is different from what existed before, and we should have a lot of editions. Yes, I have here one of those editions, which is a book which is, I don't know if you can see it, very dry, I would call it. Just text, no beginning, no end. Even the chapters are not clear where we are. It's old book. And amazing pieces of gems or valuable things in it, but they are not easy. And I first discovered this book 20 years ago, and every now and then I was reading a few pages and I couldn't get along. And then I came across an edition of 8 years ago by Larry Hedrick, who influenced me a lot, and I love what he has done. So he first of all, he edited in an easier language to understand, and then added subtitles that look like lessons of leadership. Those subtitles help. The thing that I didn't like about it is that he has transformed this in first person. So the book is as if it is written by Cyrus. He's saying, I did this, I did that, I would do that, I would do that. And it appears to me a little bit narcissistic, and it's far from the reality, because the reality is that someone else wrote about Cyrus. So my book has all the good things that Larry did, in my opinion, which is rewriting in the modern language and then structuring this in chapters. But I also added two things that make this apart. First, visual pictures, and I use artists and AI to generate pictures, so we feel those moments and those gatherings and army and kid education of the kid with parents, because there is a lot of parenthood in it as well. Leadership is not just leading a Wall Street company. Is parenthood is all about leadership. It's influencing people, including our kids, to go in the direction that we believe is the right thing, without forcing them, by creating an interest and inspiration in them so that they do it. That's my definition of leadership. So it's in parenthood, it's in couples. Many couples, maybe, I don't know, 95% of couples, there is one person in the couple who appreciates the other person leading. So leadership is also that. And of course, politics, companies, army, whatever type of leadership we want to have. So back to the book, the things that I did differently, one is images. The second one, which is probably the most important, is that the lessons of leadership are not just subtitles. I analyzed what Cyrus did in that moment. What was the intention? How do we call it nowadays? And how is this a lesson? And here's an example.
See.
The blue thing is the lesson. And I just opened the book. Cyrus demonstrates a strategic approach to conquering new territories by focus on the development and training of the people. So I go on to the importance of training and development in groups and so on. So that's the book.
And I love books I read all the time, and I really do love books that at the end of the chapter, it gives me, I don't know if you call it homework, but a call to action to do something, because, you know, if you just read for the sake of reading, but you don't have it do anything to change your life, then, you know, I might as well just read comic books.
Absolutely. My book, the previous one we talked about, always be qualifying, that we see behind me, is
Mhm.
the same thing. It's almost a workbook. These are almost workbooks with
Yeah.
um, actions and analysis of what's going on. Now the thing that I'm very excited, obviously, about
Mhm.
this new book is that it's not just a boring list of things that leaders should do. There is a novel, there's a story, there is a
Nice.
biography of a leader, the kid, a childhood, age of 12, with grandpa, the conversations, the games. It's just amazing.
Yeah, I look forward to reading that.
I
So,
I yeah.
so
Sorry.
in the last few minutes, I'm sure that we'll have to have you back after the book is out for a while so that we can see the reaction to people for it. But as one last final thing, what advice would you give to somebody out there that has a sales team that's struggling with too many unqualified leads? How would you advise them to adjust their approach?
You mean without taking our courses?
Oh no, I was just gonna say
So
this,
yeah,
but
they
number one, sign up. And
yes.
then number two, you know, you really, I think you have to understand, just as you do with always being qualified, you have to understand their situation more. So what is the Heinz story, if you will?
Right. We do provide training, and we do provide training to the managers how to adapt it and how to create their own process. So it's exactly like the wanting to drive a car, going to the driving school and learning how to drive a car, that we provide. But at the same time, we also provide to the managers how to customize your cars into the general instructions that we give. We are not a consulting firm. It is a totally different business. Is to remodel a company's um, business process. That's not what we do, but we do provide everything they need in order to do it with examples, with what they need, and it looks like they are happy with that and they want to do it. There is a function which has been developed in the past 20 years in corporate America, which is called sales enablement and sales operations. And the head of sales operations has very often a title of senior VP or things like that. So that function is developed in most companies, and they do have resources to do that. And we train them how to do it for this. So we have courses for individuals, like a B2C website. They can come and use their credit card and instantly enroll to a course. And within 5 hours, for our flagship course, and we have also a smaller, more entry-level course, which is 3 hours, 2, 3 hours. So depending on the level of depth that they are interested in, they can take the course instantly, and within a day they learn the aspects. Of course, they can come back. That the course is available for 1 year and at the same price, and they can renew it if they want to at a lower price. So that's for individual contributors, or those who make their decision individually on their own for
Mm-hmm.
their own purpose. And then we have what we call the enterprise offer, where we do that in a more traditional way, making offers and invoicing and payment there. And we enroll the team. There are stages. With too long, I would take too much of your time if I'm going to the details. There are 3 steps of e-learning, and then live sessions, and then the coaching. It's a full 3-step program that we offer to corporations and companies from, a 20 salesperson team across the US to Google Cloud, Amazon Web Services, Oracle. If you look at the top 10 tech companies, all of them in a way or another has used our services in the past 7 years.
Well, for those that are still intrigued and want to know more, we will be sharing my slide of contact information. So if you're just listening, you can get this information on my YouTube channel as Vicki Noethling. So please subscribe, as well as my findyourleadershipconfidence.com. Again, if you're just listening, I will read the information. So the website is MEDDIC.Academy. That's MEDDIC.Academy. The LinkedIn is MEDDIC. His Twitter is at DALAHOUT. That's at DALAHOUT. And YouTube is at MEDDIC. I'm going to turn it over to Darius to share with you what you might find if you go to that website, as well as how to get his latest book or the previous one, as mentioned, the Always Be Qualifying, and where he spends the most time from a social media aspect. So turn it over to you, Darius. Just let them know what's the best way to connect with you and what's on your website.
Absolutely. For everything sales, MEDDIC.Academy is the website, and there are obviously a menu which guides through courses and workshops and different services that we provide. There's also a page about the book, which is the book Always Be Qualifying, which is related to the sales motion, I would say. And then the leadership part of it is, in terms of courses, is also under MEDDIC Academy. We have Infinite Sales Leadership, which is the title of the course, Infinite Sales Leadership. And the book, which is Leadership by Cyrus the Great. I think by the time this broadcast is done, it will be on Amazon, just like Always Be Qualifying. So look for Leadership by Cyrus the Great. And there is also an Instagram page, since there are some visuals which are interesting and attractive. Sorry about that. We have a new Instagram page called Leadership by Cyrus the Great, and invite everyone to go there as well.
Fantastic, Darius. It's been just great chatting with you. You shared so many wonderful points about the importance of always being qualifying, and then how important it is for leaders today to just tone their skills to really focus on what it is to be a leader in the 21st century. So thank you for being such a great guest.
Thank you very much, Vicki, for having me, and it was really a pleasure. You have the art of asking the questions the right way and so on. So you are the reason if anything good came out of this conversation.
Fantastic. As always, I remind everyone that life is a journey, and it's up to you to enjoy the ride. This is Vicki Noethling, signing off.
Thank you for tuning into the Find Your Leadership Confidence podcast with Vicki Noethling, where we share impactful lessons that help you grow as an individual, grow your confidence, and find the positive and good within you so you powerfully and authentically become the best version of yourself. Remember to visit our website at www.findyourleadershipconfidence.com and enjoy even more great episodes like this one. Again, while you're here, subscribe to us via your favorite network. We look forward to seeing you next time on the Find Your Leadership Confidence podcast.